Hi, hello everyone. Welcome to my first monthly book roundup of 2021. Yes, this is my first monthly book roundup and I'm so excited to get to it. But before I get into it, I thought I'd do a quick introduction because I don't understand why I just go straight into my book reviews and just assume that people know who I am. So let me just introduce myself quickly. My name is Oyinda Mala and I live in London. I am a book club host. I also am a blogger. I blog about so many things. You know, I have a blog called Life Through My Lenses, and I also work professionally as a business change manager as my day job. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I've got 2 children, and you know, one of the reasons why I do these videos is to share my love of reading, share my love of books, share my love of stories with people, and most importantly, try to inspire or encourage someone out there to see reading as a really, really enjoyable activity. One of my goals is to make people see reading as something that they don't feel guilty about. One of my goals is also to be able to see that you can have a wide interest in reading. There's this thing about people saying that if you read non-fiction, you can't read fiction. No, all of that. One of the things I hope to be able to do and encourage people is to say, read what you like, and also see the benefits that you can get from reading. So welcome. If you're watching this on my YouTube channel, please don't forget to subscribe. If you're watching this on my Instagram TV, please don't forget to follow and also share with anyone who you think would find this useful or find my content or get value from what I'm actually sharing. So I'll just go straight into my book review quickly. So this year, in January, my book reading was very, very weird in the sense that I didn't actually read the way I normally read, where I read a selection of books and new books. It was just really weird. So my first book in 2021, the first book I finished in 2021 was Barack Obama's A Promised Land. And when I say it's really weird, is because I started it in December 2020, so I finished it this month. So it's not really a new read, but it was this one that I finished it. Wow. And that's the book I'm going to read from, because normally when I do these videos, I do a slight reading and kind of tell you what resonated with one of the books. And so A Promised Land is the book I'm going to be sharing from. I also reread Atomic Habits by James Clear. I didn't just read this book. If you follow me on social media, you would have known that I was doing a series throughout the month of January, because one thing I realized is that a lot of people make New Year resolutions, but then, you know, by the time it gets to this time, or by the time it gets to February, they're forgotten. And that's because people don't actually know that the best way to actually implement change, like I said, I'm a change manager, is to make those tiny changes. And that's the reason why Atomic Habits is a book that I really resonated with. And so I did a series. So if you're interested in that series, if you're watching this on my YouTube channel, there are those videos where I did a live session where I was talking to people, and I actually broke down all of the tips and actionable tips that you can actually implement in your own life in those videos. So you can get it on my YouTube channel, and if you're also following me on Instagram or anywhere else, or any of my social media platforms, you can actually have access to those videos. Another book, like I said earlier, I host a book club, and we're going to be reading 2 books every quarter, and the first book that we're reading this quarter is The Lost Khaki Girls by Ronke Odewunmi, and we're going to be meeting in February at the end of this month to discuss this book. It's been a fantastic read. It's a fantastic story. It's a book that I've read once before. For you to know how much I loved it, it was one of the picks for our book club. So if you want to listen or hear about that particular book, please, I'm going to link it. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to link it in the description. And if you're watching this on my Instagram TV, you can actually click on the link in my bio and you can join my book club. Would love to have you. It's a fantastic place. We have so many interesting conversations. Even though we read fiction, I can hands on heart tell you that people actually go away with things that they actually implement. Even though we read fiction, you don't even want to know. It's such a wonderful time, such wonderful people. So please come and join us. It's really, really a fun place to be, and it's also a good way to actually rekindle a reading habit. One of the things I discussed in my Atomic Habits Live is that if you want to build a new habit, one of the best things you can do is to join a community where that habit is the norm. I also run another book club. I coordinate, because it's not necessarily it's within a community of women, and we are also reading The Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela. So that has been my 3rd book that I'm reading in 2020, that I'm reading. So I haven't finished it. So basically, Long Walk to Freedom is still ongoing. We're also going to discuss that in that book club in February 2021. So yeah, you can see that I'm reading quite a lot of books about political leaders. There are three people that have had a really profound, two men that have had a really profound effect on me in the political sphere and with the way they've lived their life. And it was Martin Luther King, who is my birthday mate, by the way. I'm always telling everyone that. Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela. So those two men have been really intriguing. Their books, their words, really intriguing. So it's been so lovely to read about the life of Nelson Mandela, or Madiba as he was fondly called. He was such an inspirational man. And I think for me, one of the things that I'm really getting from reading Long Walk to Freedom is his humanity, but also the fact that also the values that he stood for, you know, the ability to be able to stand for certain values and also be willing to sacrifice for those values. So like I said, I'm going to do a reading from A Promised Land by Barack Obama. And I'm going to read something that people who are going to read this are going to say, okay, I knew you were going to go into that. So I'm going to read from a portion of his life. So as I said, reading A Promised Land was like having a chat with Barack Obama. And you know, he's a politician, he's a lawyer, he has a way with words. If you don't like his politics, or you don't, you know, there's certain things you disagree with the man with, one thing that you can agree with is that he's a orator. He's such a good, you know, he uses words so well, both when he's speaking and both when he's writing. So it was like I was actually having a conversation, you know, it was going into all of the things that happened during his presidency and all of that. So I really, really enjoyed the book, but there's a part of it that I'm just going to read out loud and I'll tell you my thoughts on it as well. So I'm going to be reading from page 9, and he was talking about himself when he was trying to discover his identity in the world. All of this pulled, so I'm going to read, you know what? I'm going to start from, I don't want to read quick, I don't want to read too long, but I'll read a part of the book that I really resonated with. You know, it was a part that I was like, wow, I can really understand this, and I can really understand how, as a young person, you're trying to make sense of the world, especially for the kind of upbringing that he had. So I bore daily witness to the seemingly cramped lives of my grandparents, the disappointments they feel with TV and liquor, and sometimes a new appliance or car. I noticed that my mother paid for her intellectual freedom with chronic financial struggles and occasional personal chaos, and I became attuned to the not-so-subtle hierarchies among my prep school classmates, mostly having to do with how much money their parents had. And then there was the unsettling fact that despite whatever my mother might claim, the bullies, cheats, and self-promoters seemed to be doing quite well, while those she considered good and decent people seemed to get screwed an awful lot. All of this pulled me in different directions. It was as if because of the very strangeness of my heritage and the worlds I straddled, I was from everywhere and nowhere at once. A combination of ill-fitting parts, like a platypus or some imaginary beast confined to a fragile habitat unsure of where I belonged. And I sensed, without fully understanding why or how, that unless I could stitch my life together and situate myself along some firm axis, I might end up in some basic way living my life alone. I didn't talk to anyone about this, certainly not my friends or family. I didn't want to hurt their feelings or stand out than I already did, but I did find refuge in books. The reading habit was my mother's doing, instilled early in childhood. I go to move anytime I complained of boredom, on where she couldn't afford to send me to the international school in Indonesia, or when I had to accompany her to the office because she didn't have a babysitter. Go read a book, she would say, then come back and tell me something you learned. There were a few years when I lived with my grandparents in Hawaii, while my mother continued her work in Indonesia and raised my younger sister Maya. Without my mother around to nag me, I didn't learn as much, as my grades readily attested. Then around 10th grade, that changed. I still remember going with my grandparents to rummage sale at the Central Union Church across the street from our apartment and finding myself in front of a bin of old hardcover books. For some reason, I started pulling out titles that appealed to me or sounded vaguely familiar. Books by Ralph Ellison and Langston Hughes, Robert Penn Warren and Dostoevsky, D.H. Lawrence and Ralph Waldo Emerson. Gramps, who was high in a set of used golf clubs, gave me a confused look when I walked up with my box of books. Planning to open a library? My grandmother shushed him, finding my sudden interest in literature admirable. Ever practical, she did suggest I might want to focus on my class assignments before digging into Crime and Punishment. I ended up reading all those books sometimes late after I got home from basketball practice and a six-pack with my friends. Sometimes after body surfing on a Saturday afternoon, sitting alone in Gramps' rickety Old Ford Granada with a towel around my waist to avoid getting the upholstery wet. When I finished with the first set of books, I went to other rummage sales looking for more. Much of what I read, I only dimly understood. I took to circling unfamiliar words to look up the dictionary, although I was less scrupulous about decoding pronunciations deep into my 20s. I would know the meaning of words I couldn't pronounce. There was no system to this, no rhyme or pattern. I was like a young tinkerer in my parents' garage, guarding up old cathode ray tubes and bolts and loose wires. Not sure what I'd do with any of it, but convinced it would prove handy once I'd figured the nature of my calling. My interest in books probably explains why I not only survived high school, but arrived at Occidental College in 1979 with a thin but passable knowledge of political issues and a series of half-baked opinions that I tossed out during late-night bull sessions in the dorm. So you can see that, you can see why I resonate with him. He's a lover of books as well. But I think that particular part of the book really resonated with me because I personally as well, as a young child, really, and I think every young child or every teenager, kind of wrestles with the world or, what they're going to do and who they are. But from a very young age, I grew up surrounded by books. My dad loved books. And, from about 6, I remember being in a quiz competition and someone, because my dad studied political science. As I said, politics, I love politics. So my dad studied political science in university, and he had like a very, very massive library. So he had books about socialism, capitalism, Lenin, so many things in the house. Encyclopedias was what we read as entertainment. So today people browse social media or children go on Snapchat. But when I was a child, reading Encyclopedia Britannica was my form of entertainment. But my view of the world was really shaped from those experiences in books. And, and I can't tell you for a fact that I can actually remember everything that I read in all of those books. But the thing about reading and the thing about books is that it's very, very residual knowledge. So when you're reading, it's not like you're going to take in every single thing, especially when it's not like you're reading for like an exam or something. There's a lot of residual knowledge that comes when you need it. And that's what books did. And that's why you can, as I said, Obama is someone who's quite good with words because at a young age, he discovered the love of books. So that's really resonated with me. And that's something I also want to leave with you as well. You don't have to read all of the books that he was reading, but I think building the reading habit allows you to be able to have a wide, varied knowledge about a number of things. And even if you're reading fiction, because a lot of times people think about fiction in the sense that I want to read books. You can't actually, as I said, the amount of conversations that we have in the book club, even though we read a fiction book, the amount of lessons that we take from it. Reading Nelson Mandela's autobiography has taught me about resilience, even though the book isn't actually called Resilience. And so that's what I wanted to share today about reading, about cultivating the reading habit. One thing I wanted to share here is that if you do want to build a reading habit and it's proving a bit difficult for you, please feel free to send me a message. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can, fill the form like I said, or look for a way to contact me, and then we'll just take the conversation. It's something I'm really passionate about. I always tell people that I had the time in my life when I really loved reading, but then life got in the way and adulting got in the way and I couldn't read anymore. But it's something that I've picked up and something I absolutely enjoyed. So I hope you found some value in my video today. Please do, as I said, do subscribe so you don't miss my videos. And thank you very much for watching. Have a lovely February and hope it's a really healthy, happy one for all of us. Thank you.